have an example of an abduction scenario that was painted in a positive light, but it turned out to be completely different. I got some audio. You want me to play some audio on this guy?
Yeah, do, man.
So this is from from Mississippi. I'll play this. So this is this initial clip. It's a little longer, but is from the newest Netflix UFO series called UFO Top Secret Project. This is like episode 6. And it sets up this scenario where two guys, a 19-year-old and a 40-year-old guy, they are on break from work, and they're going out fishing. And next thing you know, they're in this incredible scenario. Here we go.
October 11th, 1973. Pascagoula, Mississippi, USA. "19-year-old Calvin Parker and 40-year-old Charles Hickson shared a passion for fishing. And on that fateful October day, they were fishing from the pier of an old abandoned shipyard. After a while, they were disturbed by bluish flashes of light coming from behind them, which Calvin took to be a police car. But soon, they found out that it was something else. As they looked up, frozen in surprise, hovering above them was an elliptical vessel the size of a football stadium. The men were transfixed with fear as 3 robotic creatures descended silently to them and abducted them, taking them back to their vessel where they were examined.
Well, I was just amazed about.
Hey. Yeah, they're from Mississippi, okay?
I didn't expect that, but then it was so perfect.
But this is what it's like here in America. All right, you get some of these people, and this is his experience. Okay, Gordo, this is his experience. All right.
Okay. That light was coming from. Well, I was scared too before we got there, but I couldn't move for some reason. And found out later on that he had injected us with some kind of a shot or a drug or something. They found us out at the hospital. They laid me on a examination table at about a 16 to 45 degree angle, and I was looking straight up at the ceiling.
The creatures who transported them to the ship seemed artificial. Their somewhat jerky movements are more indicative of artificial intelligence. But then another member of the crew appears on the scene. A being who moves differently and looks different approaches Calvin Parker. To this day, Parker is convinced that this was the female of the species.
She had normal-looking hands, and her 2 middle fingers was the only thing off. They was a little bit longer than the rest of her hands. She had a normal-looking face, eyes, nose, ears. She come up and she grabbed me by the cheek and kind of pinched my cheek like somebody's grandmother would rub their cheek. And it didn't have no feelings in her fingers, no warmth or nothing. I couldn't feel anything. Then she took her left hand and she took me by the jaw and pushed my jaw down and took them other 2 fingers and run down my throat and tried to come up behind that little thing that hangs down in the back of your throat.
The one that Nicki Minaj sings
My
about?
nose started bleeding. I was choking. I couldn't breathe. And, it was getting scary by then because it was being abducted, what it was. She pulled it out mentally. She told me, she said, we don't mean you no harm. Just like she was sitting there talking, except it was in a female's voice and it was in English. She backed up and then she made a little mumbling noise and she summons this big ugly creature that brought me in there. And he come by and he grabbed me by the arm, and that's when I felt another injection going into my arm. And I felt, pretty well at ease then. So he took me back out to the riverbank.
Parker's account, confirmed by the testimony of Charles Hickson, suggests that in the vast majority of alien abductions, it is a matter of scientific interest rather than an intention to harm the abductees.
So that was confirmed by, there's another person there that experienced the same thing, an older gentleman. There was a car with two people present. They're in that car. They're making out two people, like on Makeout Ridge. So there was enough evidence there. It's like something happened. There were lights in the sky. Something happened there. Yeah, the accent doesn't help.
The accent is so good. She grabbed me by the jaw and she with her ladylike hand, and then opened my mouth and put her two fingers in. And what I realized she was doing was force feeding me a hard candy. Like, it's so
it doesn't help. It doesn't help. Now
she was speaking to me telepathically. And,
telepathically.
And it was in a Mississippi accent, funny enough.
What happened to my fish? She took my fish. She didn't. I was fishing, and that was my lunch.
I had a really good spinner that she took. I never got that spinner back, man.
Where's my bait? My tackle box was missing.
It doesn't help the legitimacy of the claims, but
it doesn't.
I mean, like, that sounds like it could have been done by, government people pretending to be UFOs to pretend to be extraterrestrials in UFOs that they made themselves to continue on possibly illegal human experiments. Now we're talking about, like, you get into the MUFON business and you start looking at how many people are abducted and how many people have abduction tales and stories of medical experiments being done on them against their will and shit like that, and it's into the thousands per year. So I mean, way out in the left field there. Maybe think about this. Maybe the American government wanted to get into space aliens kind of stuff, but also they had, as we know, co-opted a bunch of Nazis after World War II into the American system through Operation Paperclip, and those motherfuckers needed to be like, well, we need to keep doing these very important medical examinations, but because of your Geneva Convention, we can't continue to do this on the humans because, they don't like it some way. So how can we keep doing this? And then they're already deeply into NASA, so they're like, okay, well, let's make the spaceships and then fly the spaceships and pretend to be the aliens and do the experiments on the humans, but make them think it's aliens. And then when they tell people, no one will believe them. And we get our results. We also make propaganda of the fear. We get to test out the vehicles that we are making and how the cloaking technologies and the anti-gravity and such. I mean, it's a win-win-win for everybody. That's a totally plausible explanation for that to me.
It's just it's on the same level as aliens.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable.
We do know that the Nazis were experimenting with some pretty radical technology at the time. And through Operation Paperclip, we took a lot of that technology, a lot of the scientists over, and they helped run, our CIA or our intelligence agencies, NASA over here. They did the same thing over in Russia. Also, I think that there probably were alien abductions, and that if we did have that technology, they probably said to themselves, look, the aliens are abducting our own populations for some reason. We should probably do the same thing just to see if we can glean any sort of information from this operation. We don't know what we're doing. We're going to do it, and maybe we'll get some information. So they are acting like the aliens in an effort to learn more about them. That's a possibility.
Would the statistics stand up to that scrutiny? Like, I mean, wouldn't it be if it was just a random sampling? If the aliens were trying to get a random sampling of human tissue and DNA and genetic code, wouldn't there be as many reports of abductions and experiments done in, say, very high density population areas like in India and China, for example? Like, how many reports of alien abductions with such detail and veracity come from, like, Russia or from the continent of Africa? Like, how many people in the Congo or in Botswana or Sierra Leone have been abducted and come back and go, like, tell the whole story? And it was like little grey lads who were, like, poking around. It seems a lot of them come from America because they're parroting media that they've consumed and in whatever I guess I'm not like poo-pooing anyone's abduction experience, but I'm saying like
there appears to
kind
be
of telling the same story. This is the same as a thread that goes through, and it seems to be stuff that's come from mainstream entertainment media, or indeed like true listening to other people tell their stories and go, oh, I'd like a bit of that kind of attention. It happened to me as well. You know, it why does America have the most amount of abductions?
It's possible, and I think that so abductions have been happening throughout recorded human history in some magical or mystical thing, whether it's fairies, elves, dwarves taking you to this underground mystical cavern. There seems to be some sort of paranormal interaction between us humans and some other force out there. It does appear, if it's a genuine abduction, it appears to use our consciousness and experience to build the scenario in which you remember that abduction. I think that's a possibility. But with this guy's abduction, the Pascagoula, Mississippi encounter, they leave it on, oh, you know what? People who are abducted and continue to be abducted, they have a positive experience. They left out, there's more of this guy where it got bad. And this guy he got abducted again, like a couple more times. He went into under hypnosis to try to get some more information.
Butt stuff? Did they do butt stuff?
They got into a fight. This guy started actually fighting back against these aliens and grabbed the
I've had me a couple of cans of PBR, and I was just, you ain't sticking your fingers down my throat tonight, baby.
Here's a little bit of his encounter and fight.
But these things had came back, and when I went on board the ship, I said, I know this bitch. I know her. She's here to kill me this time. And I was saying that on the tape. And I was telling that to Bud Hopkins while I was under hypnosis on there. But we actually got into physical confrontation. She did the same thing, and I think they had installed a tracker in my nose, and she was gonna pull it out. And I finally just got tired of it. You know, you eventually get bullied around enough, you're gonna get tired of it and you're gonna fight back. So while this was going on and she had her fingers down my throat, choking me again, and me bleeding, I yanked her hand out and I grabbed her by the head and I started beating it against the wall. She actually started bleeding out her ears and all. She got blood all over my shirt. Me and her was both bloody because she called her big ugly friend back, her big robotic looking creature.
They test the blood on the shirts.
But my intentions was to...
That's what I was like, if they're bloody, there should be some evidence left over on him, right?
Yeah, test that man's shirt.
Yeah.
Grab her around the neck, and I was going to jump out of that craft or where I was if I could find a door. And I was taking her with me. I didn't care how high off the ground I was, where I was, if I hit in the water, or I didn't care if it killed me. I was ready to die to prove a point, I guess. And I was tired of being bullied. So I went through all this, and I described what happened, and I described in great detail, even detail that's hard for me to remember right now.
And so he does go back into. I have some audio of him. They didn't play that in the Netflix series. I had to dig and find that in a different movie. And he does go under hypnosis, and through hypnosis, he is communicating with this alien woman. And they say to him, they say to Bud, the guy, the human, say, "Hey, you're not going to be a threat to us anymore." They injected him with some sort of drug that paralyzed him. She was communicating with this guy telepathically, said, "You're not going to be a threat to us anymore." And then they started trading thoughts back and forth, and he started getting all these thoughts and feelings and images of events to come and the future and the past, and he got this sense of evil. But I'm going to play like a little bit of this hypnosis thing because he goes into like an alien. He's getting a sense of an alien takeover of our bodies.
Yeah.
And so
that's some like Xenu and the spirits from the volcano are taking us over. The Thetans, taking us over. But like, is it not, before you play it, is it not like kind of, okay, bud, on your first time it's weird, second time not great, Third time, you know what's happening. Fourth time, I'd be saving that shirt. The DNA will last for a while to get it tested. I'd also be going and straight away getting a toxicology report to find out what I was injected with. And if you find out that the blood is human and that the drug is like fentanyl or something like that, then you know you have a human abduction, purporting themselves to be aliens on your hands. Like that's the
GHB. I mean, that's in
GHB or whatever, ketamine or whatever they got going on. I'd be straight away in after that, going like, okay, give me an alien rape kit and test whatever shit is on me.
I would tend to agree. Like, you have to preserve all evidence.
Yeah,
and it's just it's frustrating that it doesn't exist. Or if it does, it's not being reported on, or I didn't see it mentioned in any of the documentaries I watched or read about in any of the articles. So here's just a little bit of his hypnosis. It's not the best quality, but you can hear him talk about his experience in the very last part of his interaction with these aliens.
She's pulling thoughts out of my head, everything that I know. And she's pulling thoughts out. And she tells me, she says, you're not going to be any danger to us. And I remember sending a signal back. I said, to us. Who is us? She said, you will no longer be a threat. I didn't know I was a threat to start with, but you can bet I will be a threat from now on. She's evil. She's really evil. I can see destruction. I'm able to see things that I've never seen before now.
What are you seeing?
Another light shining on me. And this light that's on me now is scared me. And she's afraid of this light. She's really afraid of this light. She's turning her head now. She's getting back into a corner and trying to get out the door while this light's shining on me. And through this light I can see things that's to come and things that's to pass. I know things that I'll never know again. It's not right to hate the fellow man, but I hate what's going on now. This light shining on me that she's afraid of, and I see the destruction. I see the world being changed for what it's not. I see them possessing bodies and taking them over, and yet I have the power to fight it. I have the power to know who it is. I can see through her now, and the light's gone. I'm at total peace with myself. She's evil. She's really evil.
He goes, he says, I see them possessing bodies and taking over. I mean,
is this a fella that grew up on movies like Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the late 70s?
Well, of course. I mean, that's like, his age. No,
yeah,
1950s sci-fi, early 60s sci-fi.
In his extraterrestrial zeitgeist, they're coming down. They're taking over bodies. You know, I'd love to know the imagery more in depth from movies of that time, alien movies of that time, like the robots and A Day the Earth Stood Still, maybe something like that.
Well, I will say, so the robots that took this guy, he describes them as like 7 to 8 feet tall. They basically were gray and with like a lot of like ridges around them, like they're just kind of like
Danger
gray,
Will Robinson,
kind of like that. But then they had like almost what you look like carrots coming out of their ears and a carrot for a nose, like that object, but gray. And just
like the Cybermen from Doctor Who or some shit like.
Yeah, just a ridiculous looking alien.
Yeah. Why do aliens need ears and a nose and a robot to humanize them so we can look at them in the face? Like, they don't need that shit.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
I don't know. Bud could have something there, but probably it's like not a thing. If I'm to be honest, like my gut feeling is like he could be one of these guys. Like, do you ever listen to S-Town? You know that podcast?
No.
S-Town from the people that brought you Serial, and it's one of these lads that came down from New York and he went down to, I don't know, Alabama or somewhere like that, and he ended up meeting this guy who was like super smart, and he was a closeted homosexual, and he was getting tattoos from this other lad, and he buried a load of gold and all this kind of fucking crazy story. Great series, you know, really, really well made journalistic podcast, whatever. But this guy like was playing country dumb, but he was a fucking super smart dude, partaking in the I guess, the trappings of his locality. It was like very rural, very backwoods, you know. And he was super intelligent, and he was manipulating people. He wrote this letter to this fucking office in New York and was like, come down and make a podcast about me. And it ended up being one of the most successful podcast series ever made. S-Town, you check it out. Like, and he knew what he was doing. He was telling a story. He wanted to get, he was fucking depressed, and he was a bit, you know, mentally unstable, and he wanted to get a bit of attention. So he just fucking fabricated this story about this person trying to kill him. And it's like a true crime thing, because he knew true crime podcasts were getting big, and this whole big, you know, bullshit story to get a bunch of attention, to get the cameras to come down every year, to get people to come down year on year to investigate and keep him company and keep him busy. And like, maybe Bud is like a secret super smart guy who's like, I'm going to, you know, I'm a great story writer, but I ain't got a typewriter or a word processor, so I'm going to just tell this story, and I hope that some people are going to come down with their recorders and video cameras, and I can talk to them. Like, maybe he's just looking for a bit of notice, and he's super smart and he doesn't get to exercise it. Like, very possible.
It's possible. In that case, then you have people like Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky, where there is multiple people involved with that story. Then you have Betty and Barney Hill,
Yes.
which was a mixed race couple
Old
that
school.
probably didn't want any unwanted attention, especially around this subject.
Mhm.
So if it is a government operation, and these are like, this is government military abductions, my labs, to what end? What is the purpose beyond scaring the hell out of the population and creating this narrative of alien abductions that they could then use later to usher in unlimited control and space taxes for everyone?
Well, like I said, maybe they are putting some microchips into the people and finding them again because of the tracking devices that are, you know, indiscernible from metal detectors and from MRI machines and X-rays and such. Maybe they're putting shit into people, testing out stuff, testing out like DNA, you know.